Be me, 26 years old, deeply pathetic data analyst. My daily routine consists of endless spreadsheets, microwaved pasta, and an unbroken streak of zero romantic prospects. It's 1 a.m. on a Tuesday. I am currently standing alone in a pitch-black municipal park. Why? Because my phone buzzed and a rare Snorlax spawned near the swing set. I am a grown man playing Pokemon Go in the dark, and I have completely lost control of my life. The air is freezing. My screen is the only light source for a quarter mile. I am tracking the GPS drift like a feral bloodhound. The little digital avatar moves. I realize the spawn point is directly inside the massive 3-story plastic jungle gym. I step over the low wooden barrier. I immediately lose my footing on the dew-soaked cedar mulch. My feet fly up into the stratosphere. Gravity takes the wheel. I fall backward, flailing violently. I ricochet directly into the dark opening of the yellow spiral tube slide. Momentum carries me downward in the pitch black, until it doesn't. I slam to a sudden, brutal halt at the slide's tightest curve. My knees are firmly jammed against my sternum. My pelvis is locked into the heavy-duty plastic like a Tetris piece dropping into the wrong slot. I wiggle. Nothing happens. I try to push backward, but I am hermetically sealed in municipal polyurethane. Cold sweat drips down my neck. I am completely and utterly wedged. I spend 45 minutes contemplating just dying of exposure to avoid the sheer embarrassment of calling 911. My phone battery hits 5%. I accept my humiliating fate and dial the numbers. 20 minutes later, the park is violently illuminated by the spinning strobes of Engine 42. Heavy boots crunch on the mulch. Flashlight beams shoot up the tube, blinding me. They find me, folded in half like a cheap lawn chair. "We're gonna need the saw," a deep voice sighs. Heavy footsteps echo on the plastic stairs above me. They don't send down one of the big burly guys. They send her. She slides down from the top, stopping just short of my trapped head. She is a terrifyingly gorgeous Amazon in heavy turnout gear, smelling of diesel exhaust and wintergreen gum. Her dark hair is tied back in a messy braid. She looks down at my trembling form with absolute deadpan judgment. She fires up a DeWalt reciprocating saw. The noise is deafening inside the enclosed tube. She carves through the slide housing mere inches from my face. The cold night air rushes in as the plastic roof peels back. She powers down the tool. The sudden silence is heavy. She leans in close, resting her thick fire gloves on her knees. She stares directly into my terrified soul. "Did you at least catch the Snorlax?" I stare up at her, paralyzed by a deeply confusing mix of fear and instant infatuation. I quietly mumble that it despawned. She rolls her eyes, grabs me by the collar with one hand, and hoists me out of the plastic wreckage. "The city's gonna bill you for this, slide boy," she smirks. I watch her walk back to the rig, dreading the inevitable trip to the fire marshal's office tomorrow. The next afternoon, I am standing in the fluorescent purgatory of the municipal building. My wallet is weeping. I am here to pay the city for destroying public playground equipment. The clerk hands me a pink slip that literally says, "Slide evacuation." I am officially a documented menace to municipal parks. I turn around to leave, clutching my receipt of absolute shame. That is when I see her, the axe-wielding angel from last night. She is in civilian clothes this time, boots, denim, and a faded band t-shirt that barely contains her imposing frame. She is holding a stack of fire inspection reports. She stops dead in the middle of the hallway. She looks at me. She looks at the bright pink receipt in my hand. A slow, predatory grin spreads across her face. "Well, well, well," her voice booms, echoing off the linoleum. "If it isn't Slide Boy." 3 random bureaucrats turn around to stare at me. I want the floor to open up and swallow me into the earth's crust. "Outpaying the Snorlax tax?" she asks, stepping closer. She towers over me. I am 5'9" in thick-soled sneakers. She is easily 6'1" and built like an Olympic shot putter. "I paid the fine," I squeak. My voice cracks like a puberty-stricken middle schooler. She leans down, effortlessly invading my personal bubble. "Good thing you're indoors today," she mocks loudly. "With your total lack of spatial awareness, you'd probably get trapped inside a revolving door." The clerk behind the desk actually snickers. My brain completely short-circuits. The adrenaline of sheer, unadulterated public humiliation takes over. My mouth opens before my higher reasoning can activate the emergency brakes. "Can I buy you a drink to apologize?" The words hang in the stagnant office air. I instantly regret everything. I brace myself for her to laugh in my face. I expect her to call municipal security. I fully prepare for a restraining order to be stapled to my forehead. The silence stretches out for 3 agonizing seconds. She raises an eyebrow. She scans me up and down, evaluating my pathetic, trembling existence. She clicks her tongue and shifts the folders under her arm. "O'Malley's Dive Bar on 4th Street, she says. I blink, completely stunned. "Friday, 8 p.m. She points a heavy, calloused finger directly at my sternum. "Don't flake, slide boy." She turns and marches down the hall, leaving me frozen on the linoleum. I have a date with a literal Amazon who owns power tools. Now, I just have to figure out how to survive it. It is Friday night, 7:55 p.m. I am standing outside O'Malley's Dive Bar. The neon sign is missing 3 letters and buzzes like an angry hornet. I take a deep breath and push the heavy wooden door open. My sneakers immediately stick to the linoleum floor. Every step sounds like pulling duct tape off a cardboard box. The bouncer is a man built like a brick outhouse. He glares at me. Then a massive shadow falls over me. It's her. She is wearing a leather jacket and smells like wood smoke and confidence. The giant bouncer's face instantly brightens. He respectfully high-fives her upon entry. The impact sounds like a small-caliber gunshot. She grabs me by the jacket sleeve and drags me to a corner booth. The vinyl seat is slashed and held together with packing tape. A waitress appears instantly and doesn't even hand out menus. The usual, my Amazonian date says, and a plain pretzel for Slide Boy. 10 minutes later, a platter the size of a hubcap is slammed onto the table. It is piled high with 24 buffalo wings. The sauce is a radioactive, glowing crimson. My eyes start watering just from the capsaicin fumes wafting across the table. She doesn't even flinch. She grabs a wing. I watch in sheer, unadulterated horror. She practically unhinges her jaw like a Burmese python. She destroys the wing in one fluid, aggressive motion. She spits a perfectly clean bone onto a napkin. She locks eyes with me. She repeats this process 23 more times. Aggressive, unblinking eye contact. Her brow doesn't even sweat. I am sweating profusely for both of us. My pulse is skyrocketing, just breathing the spicy air. I nervously nibble on my single plain pretzel. My hands are visibly shaking. I am thoroughly convinced she could snap my femur like a breadstick. She finally wipes her mouth with the back of her hand. She leans back in the ruined booth. "You're shaking," she observes. I squeak out a pathetic apology. I confess that I don't handle spicy food well, or loud noises, or general physical exertion. I wait for the brutal rejection. I brace myself for her to call me a loser and walk out. Instead, she chuckles. It's a deep, rumbling laugh that rattles my ribcage. "You know what, Slide Boy?" She leans across the sticky table. "Your total, unabashed cowardice is actually kind of endearing." My brain completely stalls out. Did I just succeed? "I'll see you next week," she states as a fact, not a question. "But next time, we're doing things your way." She crosses her muscular arms and smirks. "So, where exactly does a guy like you spend his Friday nights?" It is 7 p.m. on a Saturday. I am standing at the top of my buddy Kevin's basement stairs. The air smells of stale Mountain Dew and unwashed hoodies. This is my natural habitat. Behind me stands a 6'1" firefighter who breaks down doors for a living. She insisted on seeing my world. I am praying for my life. We descend into the fluorescent-lit dungeon. My weekly Dungeons & Dragons session comes to a screeching halt. 4 heavily bearded men freeze like deer in headlights. Kevin drops his 20-sided die. It clatters across the concrete floor in deafening silence. They look at me. They look at the towering Amazon warrior invading their sanctum. She steps forward and slams a heavy 6-pack of tall boys onto the folding table. The cardboard battle map violently trembles. "Give me a character sheet," she demands. Kevin squeaks in absolute terror and scrambles for a blank paper. We spend 20 minutes building her character. She rolls a half-orc barbarian, obviously. She names her character Arson. The campaign slowly resumes. We are supposed to be negotiating a delicate peace treaty with the Goblin King. We have spent 4 real-world months setting up this political intrigue. The Dungeon Master begins a deeply dramatic monologue. She interrupts him instantly. I rage and throw the Goblin King out the window. Kevin stammers that it's a reinforced stained glass window. She glares at him with aggressive eye contact. She leans across the table and physically grabs his cardboard DM screen. Did I stutter, Kevin? Kevin visibly whimpers. He frantically rolls the dice. The Goblin King goes out the window. The delicate political treaty is violently shattered. 2 hours later, our 4-month campaign is completely and utterly derailed. She has intimidated a frail NPC shopkeeper into surrendering his entire magical inventory. She actively threatened to snap Kevin's favorite mechanical pencil if she didn't get a better loot drop. My neckbeard friends are absolutely terrified of her, but they are also completely mesmerized. Kevin timidly asks when she is coming back. She chugs the last beer and effortlessly crushes the can with one hand. She tosses it perfectly into the recycling bin across the room. She turns to me with that familiar, predatory smirk. My turn next weekend, slide boy. She pokes me hard in the sternum. Hope you own a baseball glove. It is Sunday afternoon. I am back in a dusty municipal park. I am attending the city fire department's annual charity softball tournament. I am sitting on the aluminum bleachers. I am actively trying to camouflage myself against the metal. I am completely surrounded by literal human mountains. There are men named Sully and Mac who look like they chew gravel. Mac finishes a tall boy of cheap lager. He violently crushes the aluminum can against his thick forehead. He doesn't even flinch. I take a nervous sip from my Capri Sun. My Amazonian date spots me from the dugout. She is wearing a sleeveless jersey that showcases her terrifying biceps. She points a heavy finger at me. Slide boy, get your ass out here, she booms. They are apparently short one player. Someone shoves a sweat-stained leather glove into my chest. They put me in deep right field out of pure, unadulterated pity. I stand in the itchy grass for 3 entire innings. I am praying the ball stays away from me. Then comes the bottom of the 9th. The opposing team's largest firefighter steps up to the plate. He swings the bat with the force of a wrecking ball. A deafening metallic crack echoes across the park. The ball becomes a blurry white missile. It is screaming through the air directly toward me. My brain screams at my legs to run away. My legs completely refuse to cooperate. I weakly raise the oversized glove in a pathetic defensive gesture. The ball bypasses the leather entirely. It strikes me directly in the center of the sternum. The impact feels like being kicked by a startled mule. Every ounce of oxygen leaves my lungs in a high-pitched wheeze. I violently collapse backward onto the turf. I lay there, staring up at the cloudless sky. I am fully convinced my ribcage is powder. I slowly look down at my chest. By some absolute defiance of physics, my arms are crossed over my heart. The softball is firmly trapped in the webbing of the glove against my ribs. I miraculously held on to the ball. The dugout goes absolutely feral. Sully roars like a victorious silverback gorilla. A massive shadow suddenly blocks out the sun. She stands over my broken, wheezing body. She bends down and effortlessly scoops me off the grass. She hoists me over her broad shoulder. She carries me back to the dugout like a prize sack of flour. My legs dangle helplessly against her back. She dumps me onto the wooden bench and tosses an ice pack at my croaking body. Not bad, slide boy, she smirks. I survived the weekend feeling like a battered hero. But my peaceful recovery is violently interrupted on Tuesday afternoon. I am sitting in my sterile cubicle when my phone begins vibrating with unhinged urgency. I am back in my sterile corporate cubicle. The air smells like burnt coffee and dying dreams. I am deep in the Excel mines. My eyes are bleeding from looking at pivot tables. Suddenly, my phone violently vibrates against the fake wood veneer. Then it vibrates again and again. It sounds like an angry hornet trapped in a tin can. I glance at the glowing screen. I have 7 missed audio messages from my Amazonian firefighter. I nervously hold the phone speaker to my ear. Sirens wail softly in the background of the first clip. Slide boy, I'm going to lose my mind, her voice crackles. She is stuck doing perimeter control at a hazardous chemical spill. It is a level 3 hazmat situation. That means the hazmat crew is inside doing the actual work. She is literally standing next to a yellow barricade doing absolutely nothing. I have been staring at a storm drain for 4 hours. The next audio message is just a deep, aggressive sigh. Entertain me, nerd. Then comes the highly specific demand. Read me the Wikipedia page for the anglerfish. I nervously glance over my gray felt cubicle wall. The coast is completely clear. I immediately pull up the Wikipedia article for deep-sea marine life. I hit the voice record button. I start frantically whispering facts about bioluminescent dorsal appendages. We go back and forth via voice notes for an entire hour. I cover the viperfish. I detail the bizarre, parasitic mating habits of the deep-sea angler. She ruthlessly critiques marine biology like a disgruntled art critic. Evolution really phoned that one in, she replies. Then my phone screen lights up with an incoming call. It is her. My sweaty hands completely fumble the device. My thumb slips and violently mashes the speakerphone button. At that exact, horrifying moment, my department manager rounds the corner. His name is Greg. Greg is a man who rigorously enforces business casual attire and silent workspaces. He opens his mouth to ask me about the quarterly projections. My phone speaker instantly crackles at maximum volume. A booming, aggressively loud female voice echoes through the silent accounting department. Tell me more about the goblin shark's jaw mechanism, nerd. Greg stops dead in his tracks. He stares at me. I stare at Greg. 6 adjacent coworkers slowly peer over their cubicle walls like meerkats. The entire floor drops into absolute mortifying silence. My phone crackles again. Slide boy, don't you dare hold out on the jaw facts. I frantically smash the end call button, actively praying for a meteor to strike the building. I somehow survive the workday with my employment intact. I go home to my quiet, solitary apartment, thinking the chaos is over. But 3 nights later, my phone rings at midnight. It is her again, but this time I hear violently rushing water and chaos in the background. I answer the midnight call with a terrible sense of impending doom. She sounds surprisingly calm over the roaring sound of an indoor waterfall. Hey, slide boy, what's your policy on house guests? Before my sleepy brain can process the question, my doorbell violently rings. I stumble to the front door in my mismatched pajama pants. I open it to find my Amazonian date standing on my porch. She is dripping wet and completely unfazed. She casually drops a massive military surplus duffel bag at my feet. The impact literally rattles my cheap apartment foundation. Pipe burst on the 4th floor, she states matter-of-factly. My ceiling collapsed. I blink, trying to form a single coherent sentence. Then I notice the creature standing directly next to her. It is not a dog, it is a small, muscular horse disguised as a rescue mastiff. This is Arson, she points down. Arson weighs easily 90 pounds and smells like wet cardboard. He pushes past my legs without asking permission. He marches directly into my living room with absolute authority. He sniffs the air exactly once. He climbs onto my $400 ergonomic orthopedic gaming chair. He spins in 3 tight circles and violently collapses onto the memory foam. He instantly begins snoring like a 2-stroke engine. Hope you like roommates, she smirks, pushing past me. My quiet, solitary life is officially over. The next 2 weeks are a complete blur of domestic servitude. I am now functioning as a glorified butler for 2 apex predators. Arson refuses to eat dry kibble unless I mime sprinkling shredded cheese on it. He physically blocks my path to the bathroom until I aggressively scratch his massive ears. My prized gaming chair is permanently coated in a thick layer of coarse brindle hair. I try to move him once, and he just stares at me with deep, soulful pity. His owner is somehow even more chaotic. She works grueling 24-hour shifts and sleeps like the actual dead. On day 4, I brutally burn a frozen pizza in the oven. My tiny kitchen fills with acrid black smoke. The smoke alarm begins screeching at a deafening, ear-piercing pitch. I panic and frantically wave a dish towel at the ceiling. She is sprawled out on my cheap sofa in gym shorts and a tank top. She doesn't even flinch. A literal, professionally trained firefighter sleeps flawlessly through a blazing smoke alarm. I finally managed to rip the 9-volt battery out of the plastic housing. I slump against the kitchen counter, sweating and utterly exhausted. She cracks one eye open and stares at me. Next time, use the fire extinguisher under the sink, coward. She immediately rolls over and goes right back to sleep. I am constantly feeding a giant beast and sharing a single bathroom with an Amazon. But strangely, my apartment doesn't feel so cold and sterile anymore. I am actually starting to genuinely enjoy the chaos. Then Tuesday morning arrives. She kicks the front door shut and violently slams a massive stack of heavy textbooks onto my kitchen table. She looks absolutely murderously furious. I stare at the massive stack of heavy textbooks vibrating on my cheap IKEA table. She is glaring at the glossy covers like they just insulted her mother. Engineer certification exam, she grunts, crossing her massive arms. I want to drive the big rig. I timidly ask what the problem is. She lets out a deep, aggressive sigh that rustles my paperwork. I hate reading. To prove her point, she grabs a 600-page manual on hydraulic systems. She violently chucks it across my living room. It impacts the drywall with the force of a cannonball. A small cloud of white plaster dust floats to the floor. Arson the Mastiff doesn't even wake up from my gaming chair. She slumps into a kitchen chair and buries her face in her calloused hands. She looks genuinely defeated. I cannot let my Amazon warrior be defeated by a binding of printed paper. My brain shifts gears. The spreadsheet jockey awakens. My weaponized autistic hyperfocus completely takes over. Give me 2 hours, I command, surprising myself with my own authority. I drag the battered textbook out of the drywall crater. I open my laptop. My fingers blur across the mechanical keyboard. I ruthlessly digitize the municipal fire codes. I build a massive, brutally efficient, color-coded Excel spreadsheet. I cross-reference friction loss formulas with nozzle reaction variables. I create an impenetrable flashcard system. I emerge from my digital trance and present my battle plan. She looks at the glowing screen with deep suspicion. We are doing Pavlovian conditioning, I announce. I walk to the fridge and pull out a freezing cold tallboy. I set it exactly 3 feet out of her reach. Calculate the pump discharge pressure for 200 feet of 3-inch hose. She groans and guesses a number. Wrong, I state, maintaining strict eye contact. I take a sip of the beer. She looks at me like she wants to snap my spine in half. Try again, I demand, tapping the flashcard. We spend 4 agonizing evenings doing this. I become a ruthless, unyielding dictator of hydraulic mathematics. She threatens me with physical violence no less than 14 times. But by day 5, the muscle memory miraculously kicks in. 145 psi, she snaps instantly. I slide the cold can across the table. She catches it flawlessly, popping the tab in one smooth motion. The system is officially working. She is soon reciting friction coefficients while doing one-armed push-ups on my rug. I have successfully hot-wired the brain of a literal superhero. She passes her practice exams with flying colors. She goes back on shift Thursday feeling absolutely invincible. I go to sleep feeling like a proud, incredibly tired teacher. I finally have my quiet apartment back to myself. Then Friday night rolls around. It is exactly 3:14 a.m. My phone vibrates violently on the nightstand. It is not her number. It is an unknown caller. I answer it in the dark, instantly dreading the heavy background noise on the other end. Hey, is this the slide boy? A gruff bartender asks. I sit up, my heart instantly hammering against my ribs. I croak out a confused confirmation. The bartender sighs loudly over the muffled sound of a jukebox. She's refusing to leave. She's cut off, but she won't give up her stool. She just keeps staring at the wall and asking for you. I don't even bother putting on real pants. I shove my bare feet into untied sneakers. I throw a winter coat over my pajama shirt. I break several municipal traffic laws getting to the dive bar. I burst through the heavy wooden door. The neon lights are aggressively bright. I spot her immediately at the far end of the bar. She is slumped forward, her massive shoulders heavily hunched. She is still wearing her thick turnout pants and suspenders. She smells intensely of ozone, melted plastic, and stale ash. I rush over and gently touch her arm. She doesn't flinch. She slowly turns her head to look at me. Her face is coated in thick black soot. Her eyes are completely, terrifyingly hollow. The invincible Amazon warrior is utterly shattered. Warehouse, she whispers, her voice raspy and broken. Multi-alarm. Roof came down too fast. She doesn't elaborate. She doesn't have to. I carefully wrap my arm around her heavy waist. She feels incredibly drained of all her usual fire. I slowly guide her out to my rusted Honda Civic. She folds her imposing frame into the passenger seat without a single complaint. The drive back to my apartment is suffocatingly silent. We walk inside, and she ignores the living room completely. She marches directly into my tiny, fluorescent-lit bathroom. She ignores the light switch. She collapses heavily onto the cold tile floor next to the tub. She pulls her heavy knees up to her chest. I don't ask stupid questions. I don't offer pathetic platitudes. I just sit down on the cheap bath mat directly across from her. She reaches out with a soot-stained, trembling hand. I offer my own weak, keyboard-softened hand. She grips it. She squeezes with terrifying, desperate force. My knuckles instantly pop under the sheer pressure. The pain shoots up my forearm, but I don't dare pull away. We sit there in the dark for 3 entire hours. The soot slowly washes off her face in silent, heavy tears. She crushes my hand the entire time. I realize the profound weight of this exact moment. She is a literal human battering ram. She carries the weight of burning buildings and broken people every single day. But right now, in this cramped apartment bathroom, the armor is completely gone. I am the only person in the world allowed to see the tough act drop. Eventually, the vice grip on my hand slightly softens. Her breathing slows to a steady, exhausted rhythm. She looks up at me through bloodshot eyes. "Don't let go yet," she whispers into the dark. Fast forward exactly 18 months. My quiet, solitary life is permanently dead and buried. I am still a deeply pathetic data analyst. My posture is still ruined by endless spreadsheets. But my apartment is no longer mine. It is officially a heavily fortified municipal firehouse annex. Arson the rescue mastiff weighs 110 pounds now. He has successfully claimed my ergonomic gaming chair as his legal territory. He sleeps on it for 14 hours a day. He only gets up to actively terrorize the local mailman. I watch him bark at the living room window with sheer, unbridled fury. I am essentially paying rent to house a very aggressive small horse. Then the front door flies open. The heavy hinges physically scream in protest. She walks in. She is still terrifyingly gorgeous. She is wearing a department-issued t-shirt covered in grease stains. She passed her engineering certification exam 11 months ago. She actually drives the big rig now. She wields a 30-ton fire engine through city traffic with zero fear. She drops a heavy metal tire pressure gauge onto the kitchen island. It clatters aggressively against my neat stack of junk mail. She points a calloused finger directly at my chest. Front left is looking a little squishy, slide boy. She forcefully demands I check her personal truck's tire pressure every single Sunday. She claims it builds my character. I know for a fact she can do it blindly in 10 seconds. I still grab my coat and trudge out into the cold driveway anyway. I crouch next to the massive mud-caked tire of her pickup. I fiddle with the gauge like a mechanic who has never seen a car before. She leans against the front door frame, watching me. That familiar predatory smirk is plastered across her face. I check the pressure. It is completely, flawlessly perfect. I sigh and stand back up, my knees audibly popping in protest. "Looks fine," I mumble. She aggressively rustles my hair like I am a golden retriever. She drags me back inside by the collar of my jacket. She plops down on the cheap sofa and violently kicks her heavy boots off. She pulls me down directly next to her. I am instantly trapped against her imposing muscular frame. I am still physically weak. I still panic when the toaster pops too loudly. I still get winded walking up 3 flights of stairs. I am a soft indoor spreadsheet jockey. But when the multi-alarm fires happen, she still calls me. When the weight of the city gets too heavy, she still comes back to this cheap apartment. She leans her heavy head against my narrow shoulder and closes her eyes. The invincible Amazon warrior finally rests. I wrap my thin arm around her. Somehow, I became the unshakable emotional anchor for a literal superhero. And all it took was getting permanently wedged inside a plastic slide.